that means, but they've named it that. And I assume they're responsible for the fact that I'm coming to visit. So I'll be actually bringing a report about Eric Bubar's work at Marymount University, which is another active chapter, and Kyle Reeser's 3D bioprinter.
Wow.
Kyle was a fellow in my lab some years ago. He's developed a 3D bioprinter, vastly cheaper than the commercial bioprinters, really meant for teaching in universities. He and Eric, I think, developed some teaching labs, and I am fantasizing that the group in Lisbon would be interested in it, and that I was also at Brandeis a few weeks ago, where Ian Roy, who you know, I think, has done wonderful things there. I hadn't realized, but he's created a whole maker culture at Brandeis University, several maker spaces of different kinds. Turns out he's a drone fanatic. He's built about 150 drones in his day. Um,
I've just started.
Pardon me?
I've just started in the drone world. I'm taking the drone pilots course. So
Interesting.
it's great stuff.
Do you have an application, or is this just for entertainment?
Just for entertainment. I live out in the country, so I'm able to, get up there and get some great video of, especially in the fall here, the leaves change color and it's just beautiful landscape. Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, it's a big hobby. It's a Zen thing. You can just watch it all go by. It's very nice at the end of a busy day.
Interesting. Interesting. I had a conversation with um, a university student from Limerick who I worked with a few years ago in e-NABLE. He's doing a product development course, and he's developing a drone system for monitoring sheep and cattle.
Wow.
He says he lives, his parents live on a big farm. His
Sure.
dad was sick. He was living at home. His dad didn't have the energy to go over the hill and get the sheep. Um, Dennis pulled out his drone. He said it would have taken my dad an hour and a half to go over the hill and to get the sheep. It took me 4 minutes. The drone went up. I spotted the sheep. I flew over. And they all came running home.
If you could attach a speaker to it so that it could bark.
Exactly, exactly. Well, he's actually thinking that, and he's right, that in a year or two, AI will be able to handle the
Oh,
control.
sure.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, amazing.
Um, and I had another drone story for you. Oh, and I no, the Brandeis story. The other part of it is that they're creating an engineering department now, an engineering program, and they've gone through sort of a workshopping what would distinguish it from other programs. And it's sort of helping people is the distinguishing feature. So it's very much inspired by e-NABLE. I was really very pleased and impressed by what all he's doing. So that's about all of the e-NABLE chapter gossip I have these days.
Well, that's awesome.
It is
Great
awesome.
to
It
hear
is awesome.
that. Um, Even in small ways, Enable makes an impact in so many different places.
It's true, and I keep because uh, our sensory system is not so great. It's always a surprise. I keep on stumbling across these things, but it is true.
Yeah.
Um, it would be nice if it wasn't if there was more internal communication, and we're constantly working on it, but it's a real challenge. On the other hand,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
one reason why I think it persists and survives, is because the components are perfectly happy being autonomous.
I keep this Phoenix 2 hand on my desk because I get a number of doctors and nurses that come by looking for things, and it starts the conversation.
That's great.
So just you got to do it word of mouth or however it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it,
I don't remember if we've had this conversation, Dan. We probably have, but um, Adam Jennings is trying to basically trying to now re-infiltrate the professional prosthetic industry. Are
Uh,
you talking to prosthetists in your hospital?
Um, no. The folks in orthopedics, we have a simulator here in the Sim Center that they use. Theirs is primarily hip, knee, and ankle joint surgery replacements and so on. But the nursing staff that works in CHAD, which is our children's hospital here at Dartmouth, and today the ICN, the neonatal intensive care unit, they're here today. So there's a lot of what we do with kids, children. So they see that, and it's like, if you know of, don't hesitate to reach out or give my contact information.
So it's interesting. So they are free to go the professional medical route or to say, let's ask Dan about this.
Exactly. I understand you may not be in a position where you can afford a, ten or $15,000 prosthetic for your child, but we have a way that you can get one where your child can learn how to use and care for a prosthetic until, he's in a situation where he can make that jump. So
And remind me, have you had cases like that you've been able to serve?
yes, I did the unlimited arm for a 7-year-old this past summer. And very much that thing. His family is just not in a situation where they're able to, get him that full prosthetic. And I explained to the school nurse that this is the perfect way for him to start, because he's going to outgrow it anyway.
Of
And
course, of
that
course.
prosthetic is going to be a lifelong journey for him. So this is the perfect way to start. So this summer he's been riding his bicycle. He's been on the playground with other children. He's learning how to use that right prosthetic to write his name. Yeah, so it's been a great journey for him, uh, and very
Well,
satisfying for me.
yeah, a great journey for you too.
Yeah.
Um, well, that's a nice story. It's always good to hear. And did you have any interaction with the physical therapists or the
Uh,
prosthetist?
just the school nurse. She's been kind of the intermediary. I told her that, I totally respected this child's privacy, uh,
Sure,
and she was very comfortable being that, that middle person for us. So,
that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
So interesting. So you've seen the kid in action, though.
I have. When we were doing the fitting, we were doing it like Zoom, like this, and
Ah,
I was going over some things with her, and he was just running around her office on day one, picking things up and
ah,
uh, pushing things around, and yeah, yeah, really, really getting into it.
son of a gun.
But here we go. We've just invented a little troublemaker.
Oh,
We'll be
that's
trying
right.
that
That's
thing on
right.
everything.
Right. Well, that's very interesting. It's
Yeah, anywhere in that world. I'm a cancer survivor, and every year I'm still doing my annual checkups. They run a scope up my nose and inspect my airway. So I'm working with that doctor's surgical residents, 3D printing a nose structure that
whoa,
they can practice manipulating that scope through. And they brought this down to me, but it's PLA, and it's not flexible enough to get the scope with the camera through. So we're going to do some experimenting with silicone and using that PLA as a mold, so that we can cast one out of silicone and see
very
how.
cool.
So yeah, again, and I always tell the docs, if there's anything that we can 3D print or create a mold for, that's just a great educational value.
That's great. This is why we do what we do. These are
Exactly.
great stories. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
do you have any contact with other regional enable types?
I don't. I know that there is a group, I believe in Connecticut, um, that when they first created their chapter, we were emailing, she was interested on how we do it and, where we get the filament from and things like that. And so, yeah, just trying to help them get off the ground.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, such as it is, the system actually seems to work, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if you're not down here pounding the ground with the chapters and stuff, you really don't know until you sit through a chapter leader meeting and share some of these stories or stumble across it like you have.
Right.
Yeah.
Just, just thinking, wouldn't it be nice if there were a way of collecting those stories systematically? Have you posted any of your reminiscences on social media?
Yeah, I have an enable page that I have on Facebook. And I have posted in the enable forum the prosthetic that I just did for the
Mhm.
7-year-old, put pictures on there. So I just wish we had more interaction here in this chapter leaders meeting, you know?
Well,
But at
you know,
one point early on in the war in Ukraine, there were some, and
that's
when
right.
was it Turkey and Syria had the earthquake, there was a lot of action going on then. I thought that was a great way to share information and gather resources. I have been kind of poking around to see what's happening in Israel and Gaza, this, because that's going to be a huge thing.
You're
Um,
quite right.
so yeah, and it's just unfortunate that it takes those types of circumstances to get us off our butts to do things.
And there are enable chapters in Israel, and I think there's one in the West Bank. I know that there's an Arab uh, Israeli also involved. You're quite right. I'm embarrassed to say it didn't occur to me that this is one of those occasions. Um, the founder of Enable in Israel died a year or so ago, but they're still, I assume, going strong. Although right now this is probably not foremost in their mind. But
Sure. Yeah.
I'll think about catching up. With regard to this and everything else, Dan, um, my engagement in Enable is answering emails that come my way, giving the occasional talk, and going to the town hall meetings, which have reduced in frequency, by the way, and showing up for these chapter leaders meetings. And we're not, and so that's sort of the current state. It if what I'm just trying to say is, if somebody named Dan Robinson or anyone else really wanted to stir things up and start actively saying, I'm a chapter leader, here's my story, I'm modeling some good behavior, what's your story, let's meet at the meeting, etc., that's what it's going to take.
Sure.
um,
Yeah, and that's actually a very good idea. Um, and almost shaming chapter leaders into getting more involved. I understand this is not a paid gig,
well,
and
that's exactly right.
and people have things going on in their lives.
That's right.
Get it. Um, so yeah, maybe it's just a poke to folks to say, oh, maybe I should give them about 15 minutes or so just to find out what's going on, and if there's something I can do to help.
Well, that's right. And recognizing that we all have things going on, including you, just know that there's an open invitation. We claim to be a duocracy, and leaders pop up and they get involved and things get lively, and then they move on. And
Sure.
it's still better for the period when they were able to do it. So by all means, give it some thought.
Yeah.
Um, we're moderately good at backing people up when they take the initiative, but we've learned not to take every possible initiative because there's
Right,
not enough of us to go around, and then the community, then you sort of feel like you're pushing the community someplace it doesn't want to go.
right. Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, it's about giving. Um, and people can only give what they can give.
well, that's right. That's right.
Totally
Um,
correct.
you know, I am thinking about drones these days, so I'm going to try to make a mental note that you're part of the emerging drone thing.
Huh.
The There are people who 3D print drones. This guy Ian has done a fair
Oh,
amount of that.
yeah, I've
Um,
seen the files, but I've so much else coming out of my 3D printer. I can buy a very a pretty good drone fairly reasonably. So as long as I can do that,
it's true.
I'm fine.
It's true. I'm I've got my eye out for, as does Adam. e-NABLE has sort of been defined around prosthetics, but as you know, this device that you're doing and the assistive technologies, and then maybe drones, someday, somehow, maybe we're going to just sort of reactivate our community of people with 3D printers and have some other opportunities for them that they will engage with. And drones could be it. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Who knows? There's
Who knows? Exactly so.
enough shepherds out there may want a drone.
Right. Right. Sarah, are you with us, by the way?
Yes,
Hello.
I'm here.
Yeah. Sarah, I was just going to say, we really should use the map and other things, and I've got a call coming in. Use the map. Oh, I need to get this. Use the map and other things to check on our friends in the Middle East and see if there's something we can do. Excuse me for
Hey,
a
Bob,
second.
John, take care. It's good to see you. Bye, Sarah.
Thank you for coming.
All right.